Everyone from me, Brent Graham of goodforthegame.co.za. Thursday night, 9 o'clock time for the Handicap Rugby Chat that matters. On tonight's show, we're going to be talking URC Week 4, of course, and then a little bit of discussion at the end of the show. We have chatted about this before, but I want to touch on this with our guest, the Oracle Team News and Betting. I'm going to try to do something which Oracle's wife has been trying for well over 20 years and never succeeded. I want to change his mind about something just a little bit. We'll see if I'm successful, and we will leave that to the end of the show. But let's welcome him back on the show. It's Oraclepedia, the Oracle, whatever you want to call him. Her name is Gavin, of course. Gavin, welcome, mate.
Thanks, Brent. Another dismal week with percentage strike rate, but a winning week because the Lions delivered properly this week as they did the week before. Excuse me. I expected a little bit better of Ulster. They were quite poor. In fact, this Edinburgh team surprised me quite a bit. But I also think that it's the 1 o'clock start or 1:45 start. I don't know. Yeah, you didn't come with me to the Currie Cup final 2015. It was held at 1:30 in the afternoon because South Africa was playing New Zealand in the World Cup at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock that afternoon. I can't remember what it was. Instead of having the game on the Friday night or the Saturday or the Sunday, sorry. But I do understand why URC South Africa is having an afternoon kickoff in Joburg and a day game in Pretoria as well. But the half felt it's an opportunity for South African teams to get a little bit more of an advantage than they would get. But yes, I enjoyed the rugby. I didn't get all of it right. In fact, I got most of it wrong, but I still showed a profit because of my biggest strike on the line. So quite happy with the weekend and learned quite a bit as well watching the other games.
Yeah, it was kind of an odd weekend for me. Also one of those weekends where I came out of it on top, but not by much, And it was one of those weekends where I actually called quite a few games quite well, but yet the way I punted, my last-minute decisions didn't go for me. I had, I think, 3 last-minute sort of things go against me as well. I did turn around and I had some good wins, some bad wins, some losses or some break-even games where I really felt I left money on the table, for the bookmakers. But that's how it goes, I guess. Let's welcome the guys in the live chat before we carry on. Just scanning down, we got Seen. He was first in by Blutterskrin, chairman of the Oracle fan club. He's in there as well. Peter Paul, good for the game myself. I was just replied to something there. And Farid is in there. How are you, Farid? WJS, of course, in the UK there. Evening, boys. And Stefan Jabir. Hi there, gents. Guys, great to have you on the show. We're going to be talking URC, as I said, and then at the end we'll get into a few other general betting discussion. I must say we had a good discussion last week, Gavin. Maybe at the end of the show it is nice to talk about a few different topics as well. The Bluetooth getting the first dig. Is the Oracle using a potato for a camera? I've got to say the Oracle's picture quality is looking better than ever. You're looking pretty good there, Gav.
Yeah, I used an earbuddy and some of this stuff that you use to clean glasses with. So, yes, it has improved. I'm not I suppose, I've been the worst of all of the cameras on the show over time. So, yeah, it's a vast improvement from what we had before.
Excellent, that. Right, chairman of the Oracle fan club, yes, by Brutus Krun. Can charge a subscription to that, I'm sure. Right, Gav, let's get into the action. We got first game. We got one of these big handicaps. It is very close to where I set it in the Good for the Game forum. And in fact, I just want to I'll open that up now. There hasn't been, I don't think, a lot of movement on this one. Glasgow, of course, defending champions, up against Zebra, who 2 weeks ago beat Munster at home, but were quite well beaten by the Stormers last week. What do you think of this one, Gav? I must say, I'm battling a little bit. I mean, for me, Glasgow could comfortably put Zebra away. But 27.5 is quite a bit. And if they're not switched on for the whole 80 minutes, you could see Zebra also beating this cap. What are your views on this one?
Starting this tournament, I was quite bullish on these Italian teams, actually. But you're right, the Stormers result has painted a different picture. In fact, 27 is the highest this week. I think it's very close to the highest we've had in the tournament so far. 27
last week was 29.5 against.
No, I'm just saying it's one of the highest.
It's one of the highest.
It's a 4-try handicap. It's big. And you're right, they had a decent result against Munster. They also had a decent result against Cardiff. And, excuse me, this Stormers result is took me by surprise. I'm going to suggest a very small play on Zebra here. I've also got to believe that Glasgow, we're talking about teams. I wouldn't expect a full strength Glasgow team here. This is the kind of game that they may want to rotate a few players or try a few different positions. It's the kind of game that could do that, and it is a high enough handicap to suggest a plus. It's also early in the tournament where high handicaps like this don't generally arrive. I'd be worried taking a minus here. It feels too high, and it's also too early to be too high. So this kind of handicap for me should be towards the end of the tournament and not necessarily in the beginning. And yes, they are last year's champions, obviously, but I've not been overly impressed with their results, especially the one where they lost against the team that the Lions smashed. I know, and it was a decent strength side, Ulster. So yeah, I'm a plus punter here, small, not much. Yeah. Right.
And Gav, I'm not going to ask you to run through the team sheets for obvious reasons, but and to be honest with you, and we'll talk about this at the end of the show, I'm also not that clued up on a lot of these. I mean, I know the big names, I know some of the guys, but there's also quite a few guys that I don't know. But I look at this Glasgow team, and maybe the guys in the live chat can tell me. To me, it looks as though
how strong the team is. Correct.
Yeah, it looks to me that one or two could. And bear in mind, these are the only two teams we've got for the weekend because this is just the one game on the Friday night. So to me, they look a little bit offish there, but perhaps the guys in the live chat can let us know there. And I'll just have a quick look at what I handicapped this game. So 24.5 I went. So it's open 25.5. It's moved out to 27.5. So not much in this one for me. I can tell you, and I'll just bring up the weather here quickly. Let me just change the view a little bit so that we are not. Let's see how it goes. We are not
6 degrees is a good day in Glasgow, isn't it?
It is, but and I haven't opened I've been. By the way, I'm doing a bit of research on weather sites with a bit of help from Henrik, and I've got some plans for the game on the weather front. So we won't talk about that now. But I'm not going to go into detail here. But it looks like some rain about there. Point sign of 58.5, which gives us, Gav, you like doing the maths. 58.5 plus minus 27.5 with 31.
15. So yes,
15.5 on Zebra.
Yeah.
Right.
So I see 15 on
Zebra there.
Yeah, to me, they've achieved it a couple of times already, except for the Stormers game. So yeah, it is worth a punt. Is it better than the plus 27? I'd like the plus 27 before I go over on Zebra.
I was thinking unders in the conditions. Unders potentially on 15.5 was where I was sort of thinking. I mean, Zebra, they didn't score many against the Stormers last week, and that was on.
I think that's yeah. I wouldn't read too much into that. I wouldn't read too much into that Stormers game. I wouldn't read too much into it. I think when it's bad conditions, you'd rather go for the plus because it brings both teams in. In fact, I'm going to suggest rainy weather. Well, the teams that are used to rainy conditions, obviously Glasgow would be. The Italians wouldn't be. But still, plus 27, it just feels too much. I'm a small plus punt. I wouldn't take minus.
And Fareed is saying that is a full Glasgow team. The only guy, and Fareed, you can probably confirm he's injured. I saw Kyle Steyn, for example, was missing. That's what made me think. And I know he didn't play last week either, which makes me think he is injured. But Chris is saying on paper minus all day long. I'm trying to bring up his comment on the on my computer. So I'm on my phone. That's why the sound on that's much better. But my computer is still hanging there. But Chris reckons on paper minus all day. Recall Glasgow not usually hitting high caps even at home though. So yeah, Gav, I think you're going to have your supporters there on the plus. There might be a few guys on the minus. Firstly, I'm going to have a look at conditions closer to the game and probably have a points punt on this. At this stage, leaning potentially Zebra on the unders. And I see Johan is coming in and saying he does like the unders a little bit on this one as well. Just having a look at some of the other comments. Dan saying a Zebra plus there. Right, that's the first game. That's Friday night action for you. Let's move on to the next one. And I'm going to bring it up in a second, but let me just go to the actual bookmaker site for now because my computer is giving me some problems. And it's Benetton, Gavin, minus 2.5 against the Sharks.
Yeah, this is Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm not impressed with this Benetton team, eh? I'm really. I went for them twice, lost on them twice. I just want to say one more thing. Sorry, with regards to the rain, and this is something that a lot of people probably haven't noticed. Total points moves quite a bit on weather, and I've always said a points bet is 80% weather, 20% referee. I've said that many times. I still believe it, but in a game like that with the 27 and the 58, you'll find that the 58 may drop down to 55, 54, 53, 52. It could have anything from a 2 to a 5 point decrease on bad weather, may even go into the late 40s, but the handicap won't move as fast as the points. So you might get a 27 to a 22 movement, or 27 to a 25, or 27 to a 26, maybe even 24, but it won't go lower than that. But the points could drop 10 points for a 3-point handicap drop. And I think the value still in bad weather goes to the plus almost every time. In this game, I'm going to tell you, I've got no faith in this Benetton team. But at the same time, I'm going to tell you, I've got no faith in the Sharks team. So this game, I'm going to stay out. I say stay out. I'm going to stay out pre-match. This is the kind of game I might get involved in 15 minutes into it, 20 minutes into it. I'll get a feel for the game, but I got to tell you, this handicap has basically landed exactly where it should be, round about the 0 line. Anything from plus 2.5 to minus 2.5 on either team. That 5-point line, I can't separate these teams. After what I saw with the Sharks last week against that Dragons team, I was very disappointed in them. Obviously, the week before, having a strong start and lead against Connacht, ending up losing. Benetton have been absolute rubbish in their 3 games. I've not been impressed at all. In fact, I've been disappointed. I don't know how to call this game. I wouldn't know where to go. And I'd leave a half a unit to play in play after watching 15 to 20 minutes. I've got nothing on this game for you right now.
All right, well, let's go. I'm going to give you my opinion on this now, but let me just run through some of the comments here. Benetton due for a performance, and this is the one I enjoyed. Blake saying wrong favourite, Gavin. And if you have a look at what screen I'm sharing there, that's the Good for Game forum. There's a link to that down below. This is my Sunday handicapping. So I handicapped this game as Benetton plus 3.5. I thought they would be underdogs for this match against Sharks, because like you, Gav, I haven't been impressed with Benetton. Yes, the Sharks, let's face it, they can really blow hot and cold. But I thought the Sharks would be favourites. So I'm saying Sharks on the handicap here, or Sharks on the board for me is where I'm looking. We'll just bring up
so Blake's put on here that I've got the wrong favourite. I'm going to suggest this could quite easily get the hashtag for the week of being rubbish versus rubbish. I mean, we called that. I still remember the first game, and I annoyed about 400 people when I said Cheetahs were playing Bulls, and that I think it was 2016 and 2017 Super Rugby game, and they were both rubbish at the time. So yeah, this is probably the worst fixture of the week. Any team can win, and I think it's about watching and getting a feel for the game once it starts. But honestly, I've got nothing for this game.
I like the Sharks quite strongly on this one. Johan saying either team by 1 to 7. Fareed saying Benetton might build on from that good second half against Leinster. But you know what it is about Leinster when they get those 4 tries, and unfortunately I was on Leinster over the 5.5 tries last week. I think they scored their 4th in the 30th minute or something, and they scored their 5th in the 79th. They're the sort of side that for some reason when they get well clear, they sort of switch off. So I'm not sure what to read into that one either. Blake reckons the body language was quite poor from the Sharks. I don't know. I'm expecting the Sharks to come through on this one. So no real view on points here. Weather does look like being okay. But let's go. Oh, yeah, I'm jumping to the wrong site now. I'm trying to bring up the banner for the next game, and I'm running around on the website. I'll just leave the good for the game up for now. And we got the next game in Cardiff, minus 6.5 against the Scarlets. Now, if I look here, I went 7.5. And there was 10.5 early in the week. So money has come for the Scarlets. I can tell you the guys on the Good for the Game forum, Pablo and the boys, were on the Scarlets from the start. So there has been quite a lot of money. Gav, I'll quickly tell you the weather on this one as well. As a matter of interest, Cardiff, the weather on Saturday looks pretty decent. It's cool, but it certainly doesn't look too bad. We got very little chance of precipitation and fairly light wind. So conditions good for the teams. -6.5 Cardiff and a points line of 49.5.
This is the repeat of the game that played. This is the opposite. They played each other 2 weeks ago.
I'll look it up now, actually, because I've got this.
Yeah, and this is the one where I said the teams are too close, take the plus, and they ended up Cardiff with the plus team, and they ended up winning. I'm going to tell you to back Cardiff minus here. It's come down enough to be reasonable, and the Scarlet team has not impressed me. In fact, their best result was drawing with Benetton. So, yeah, I'm a small Cardiff minus punter here. It's enough. It's low enough. The money's come for Scarlets, and I think they're wrong. And at 6.5, I'm a Cardiff punter.
Right. Well, people can probably see why I battle with the old computer, and I'm on the phone. Geez, my computer is hanging there at the moment. I wanted to see the head-to-head quickly, and just have a look at that. I'm on SofaScore, which is one of the sites I use. And interested to hear in the chat any sites you guys use for the head-to-head and that in rugby, but I'll remove it for now because it's just taking so long to come up. But I think this game could be a Cardiff overs here. So 49.5, we're looking at 43 divided 21. I think Cardiff 27, 28 points here could be an overs. But I've been impressed with Cardiff this season, and even the Scarlets.
Yes, and the City, even though they lost that game against Glasgow, scoring 36 points is an achievement on its own. So yes, you're probably right. I would still say -6.5 before I would go over on Cardiff. The weather is dependent on this as well. Sure, if it's bad weather, then minuses are far more difficult to go than teams to score points because the points line will come down further, as I said in the last one. Yeah, I'm a minus Cardiff punter here unless it's absolutely bad weather. The handicap will come down anyway, and I'll still be a minus punter. So I'm always going to be a minus punter here, rain or no rain.
Yeah, and I can tell you're spot on about that game. 28th of September, the Cardiff beat them by 9 points at the Scarlets ground. And just looking prior to that, actually, I'm quite surprised. The Scarlets had quite a good run. They'd won 3 in a row against Cardiff. But I'm with you on this one. I fancy that as well. Let's move on to the next game. I'll have to bring the banner up a little bit later. Edinburgh up against the Stormers. -4.5 Edinburgh here, Gav, against the Stormers at 48.5. I'll quickly tell you what I capped this. I thought the Stormers would be favourites here. I kept them at 3.5, and part of my logic there was the fact that Edinburgh have just been on a bit of a punishing tour of South Africa. They're coming back. They didn't perform particularly well in South Africa. Not too bad against the Bulls. Well beaten by the Lions, and I think they could be right for the taking from the Stormers side. That to me is starting to improve.
So the Edinburgh losses in South Africa for me were expected. Again, it was the time of the day, it was the temperature. There's a lot going on there. And, Stormers beating that Italian team, I'm not sold on the Stormers yet. I think that Edinburgh at home, back at home in their home conditions, understanding everything. And, there's a lot of them that tell you that, we spoke about this before URC started or even before Pro 16, before Cheetahs and the Kings went over there. We thought that these guys would fly 10 hours overnight, sleep on the plane, but that's not what they're doing. They're flying to Dubai and Qatar, and they're doing all of these 18-hour flights. They're not doing anything much. They're not doing anything very much different to Super Rugby, except the jet lag is obviously gone, but the travel time hasn't changed much. So I suspect these Edinburghs or however you want to pronounce them, I'm going to say they had an easier trip home. And you can't read too much into their results because they were time of day and altitude affected. I think they'll be far stronger at home. And the Stormers have not given me enough to say that they're worth anything in this game. I'm an Edinburgh punter here. And I think you can take a little bit more and probably take a 15-10 and go for a little bit more here. This is out of the games we've spoken about so far, I'd like to say this is probably my best strike of the games we've already talked about.
Interesting. So we Oracle and I are going against each other here a little bit. Let me, if I can, I'm gonna keep talking while I bring up the weather there. But having a look here on Saturday, there does seem to be some rain about in Edinburgh. We've got a 9-degree top temperature here with a 2-degree bottom temperature, so it certainly looks pretty chilly over there. Let me just have a look. What did I say? The points were on this one. The points on this game, 48.5. So 4.5. So Stormers points about 22. This is not a game I'll be rushing to go overs. I think it could be quite a tight game. But I'm not writing Edinburgh off by any means, but I think Stormers are the value here, probably somewhere around the 17-10 or 18-10 mark. Let's have a quick look at the weather that I'll bring up there. Stefan saying he likes the introduction of the weather, and I do think it's something we can introduce onto the show. Dwayne van der Merwe should be back, says Dan. Yeah, so that'll be interesting to see if he does get back into the action. I was very disappointed when he was a late withdrawal last week against the Lions, because I did like Edinburgh points. They were 0 at half time, scored their 21st. I needed one more score in the last 15 minutes, and absolutely nothing came. Pretty disappointed in them. Right, Gav, let's move on to the next game then. And that is Leinster up against Munster. I believe this is at Croke Park. I believe they're having something like, did I see correctly, 80,000 or something? No,
they'll fall the stadium.
It's an unbelievable match. We got Leinster here are biggish favourites at -14.5 against Munster. Munster were impressive in atrocious conditions last week. I think it was the Ospreys that they played where they beat them. I was on the -12.5 there, but when I saw those conditions, I wasn't sure we'd get 12 points in total in the game, quite frankly. So interesting one that. But 14.5 seems quite big. While you're talking, I'm going to pull up a little bit of head-to-head form on these teams.
Brent, I just want to say one more thing about Edinburgh. We mustn't forget that they did score 31 points in that opener against Leinster, the team playing the Stormers. And that's probably given me around about 33 to 40% more confidence on that game. I remember looking at that earlier, and I remember why I liked that particular one. But again, I'm discarding like we do in horse racing. A horse has a bad couple of runs, you just scratch it off the card, and you look at the previous. Exactly. I'm saying that you can stick a line through the Edinburgh performance in South Africa. It wasn't great, but it wasn't unexpected, and especially from a team that had come off scoring 31 points at home against Leinster in that first week. Yeah, I just like them. This is an interesting one. So what is the head-to-head here? Because I'm going to tell you a minus is probably the right number here, but I'm not a big Leinster minus punter. Sorry, I have had them on in the past. I've gone against Leinster actually more than I've gone for them. It's probably something like out of 10 bets, I've probably had 3 on the plus and 2 on the minus, and the other 5 I haven't had a bet. But this game, I'd like to say that 14.5 looks low for Leinster. I wasn't too impressed with this Munster team.
I'll give you the head-to-heads, Gab. Sorry, I would bring it up, but as I said, the computer's giving a few problems at the moment. So last time they met, there was 12 points in total. It was 9-3 to Leinster. That was obviously last year at Munster. But let's have a look at some of the Leinster home games. Leinster 21-16, so a 5-point win. Previously 27-13-14, that's on the line. But you got to go back. You got to go back quite a few. You got to go back about 7 matches since they won by 15 points, and that was in 2022. So I would say that I'm also leaning towards the plus there. Leinster just one of those sides. They're a great side, but they just switch off. They and not that to say they can't put a team away by 60, but they seem it's almost like I got the feeling last week. They went out there, they got their 4 tries, and then it almost felt like it was Nina saying, stop these guys from scoring, let's work on our defensive systems. I'm not saying that that's what happened, but that's the sort of impression I got last week. So, interesting one that I'm going Leinster there. Total points, if you look at the total points between these sides on the head-to-head, I can tell you that this points line would not have arrived if you went overs in the last 5 meetings between the sides. There was a 60-pointer in 2022, but since then, there hasn't been over 40 points So I would say 49.5 in this game might be getting on the high side. I will check the weather there now. Any thoughts on the points there, Gav?
Yes, I agree with you. Statistically, that does sound big. Again, the weather will obviously make an impact here. But Munster have outscored, if you take the 14 off, so that takes you to 35-17. Munster have scored more than 17. In fact, they've scored more than 20 on all of their games so far this year. Just not that impressed, though. I don't know. I know that it hasn't arrived in a while, but I just feel that minus Leinster is the right way to go here. And it will be small. It's a small punt, this. Just feels right.
Well, I haven't brought the weather up, but I've got it in front of me here. It does certainly look as though there's going to be some rain about on Saturday there in Leinster. So, yeah.
I think it rains every day in Ireland. I saw a stat once where it was like 130 days in a row it had rained or something. I think it rains every day.
That is unbelievable. Yeah. I'll tell you the percentage in a sec. But yeah, so that looks like there could be some rain about. Guys, apologies. I haven't been bringing the live chat comments up for the time being because, geez, yeah, just battling a little bit.
Because you need a producer.
No, it's actually not a producer. I need a new computer. I've said it for a long time. Producing it's actually not a problem, but my computer's hanging so badly. So by the time I bring it up, we're already talking about the next game. And I've been kicked out of the studio a few times already. But it's just, I'm going to stop the sharing and just run through some of the comments here. Having a look at this game. Leinster did the business last week on more than 4 times my money. Geez, what did you bet more than 4 times your money with Leinster there, Farid? I'm interested in that one because it ended on the handicap of 29. Some plus backers would actually have collected. So I'm assuming you had some other bet there last week. Munster plus, these tend to be tight games. I agree with Johan on that one. He can't with Leinster 2 weeks in a row on Leinster minus. Learned my lesson. Defense looks good though. Under Munster points. Having a look here. Leinster first team ran out of steam due to too much resting. Yeah, quite possibly there for Reed. Anyway, that's the Leinster game. We're going to go into the next match now, and it is. And I've now had to come back into the studio, so I'll find my way back there. It's Ospreys against the Bulls, and quickly have a look at my caps on this one. I said Ospreys plus 5.5, so it's pretty close. It opened plus 8.5, so there has been money for the home team here, Gav. Bulls have named a very strong touring squad, and we got a points line of 49.5.
I've got to go Bulls minus here. This Dragons beat this team. Got to go Bulls minus here. Not a big bet, small bet, and I'll increase it in play. Excuse me, but this is screaming Bulls minus. I would have expected this to be a double-digit number, so I'm quite surprised that it's only 6.
Yeah, interesting. What Steve Reed has come on, old cat smug. What's the Oracle waffling on about? Just back the Lions and take the cash. Yes, Steve, I think
that'll be my biggest bet, Steve, but we just haven't got there yet.
But yeah, on this game, I've got to say that Ospreys have actually impressed me a bit this season. They haven't been too bad, but I'm with
the Dragons beat them, Brent.
Yeah, but the Dragons have also quite impressed me.
The Dragons beat them. No, I can't buy. I'm not buying what you're selling.
On the up, man. Back them to win the flipping Grand Slam next year. Now, I'm not going that far, but I do think Welsh rugby's on the up. I quite like what I see from some of the teams, but I'm leaning Bulls here. I agree with you. I think the Bulls can win this quite comfortably. Scene's in agreement with us there as well. So we on the Bulls here. Gav, you and I united on that one. Let's move on to the next game then. It's Ulster up against. And Ulster up against Connacht.
Yeah, all right. So this game, sorry, Brent. What you need to look here is head to head is very important here. When the derbies come in, especially this, I'm really interested. I haven't looked at the head to head yet. Connacht haven't come to South Africa yet. Ulster have obviously come back from South Africa. This is a tough one. Head to heads will give us a lot more information, and obviously strength of the team, if anyone knows.
Well, let me look at the head-to-head for you, and I'll also pick up the weather on that. As I say, just unfortunately takes a bit of time to load. I'm going to say my views on this one, to go back to what I handicapped this game. I actually kept this Ulster slight favourites at 1.5. Connacht have impressed me in patches. Also, of course, like Edinburgh, coming back from a an overseas trip where, I thought they were pretty disappointing overall as well in South Africa. But like you said, Gav, I mean, maybe don't expect too much there, frankly. So yeah, I thought this game would start closer to choice. I found myself leaning towards Connacht in that sense. Let's have a look if I can pick up the head-to-head. Yeah, I've got some slow stuff here. We'll have to chat about that later. I am battling with I used to think it was my internet, but I've subsequently found out it's my computer. I need to win a few bucks this weekend and get the new laptop. Points there, 49.5. I'll look at the weather now as well. I do have it opening now. We'll be able to give you some head-to-head. Hey, patience of the saint here. Unbelievably slow. I'll give that a miss. We'll come back to that. Gav, just remind me to come back to that head-to-head. I've got it open. The next game we've got is the Dragons.
I'm just going to say, without looking at the head-to-head, I'm going to tell you I'm happy with Ulster here. Connacht having a couple of close finishes. One of them being against Munster. At 3.5, it does feel a little bit too low. Obviously, this is the other Irish derby, being two of them for the weekend. I'm an Ulster punter. I was impressed with them in that first game, beating the champions. Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you the head-to-heads. I'm not going to try to bring it up. Sorry, guys, my connection's too slow. But let me give you the head-to-heads. First of all, Ulster did win the last match that they played. They played last year at Ulster by 1 point, suggesting, it could be quite a close. But if I look at the points difference between these sides, first of all, Connacht have won 2 of the last 3, including beating Ulster 15-10 at Ulster 3 starts back. But Gab, so first of all, I want to look at the points difference. The last 4 games between the sides have all been decided by 5 points or less. So not usually a lot between these sides. But I also just want to look at total points, 39, and I'm working in reverse order, so starting from last year's games. 39, 42, 35, 42, 46, 44, 47. And we've got a total points line here, 49.5. Screaming.
Yeah, it seems obvious.
Absolutely. Hey, it's screaming unders there. I'll have a quick squiz at the weather now as well. Let's go and see what the guys in the live chat have to say about this one. And I'm just going to bring up the Ulster weather here on my computer, and I'll
say what you could do here in close games, as you said, Brent. A lot of these games will be decided by under 5 points. Let's take a board, take the 6 or 7. I mean, I've got a general rule of 7 to 10, and at minus 3.5, it's more likely to be 6 to 10 or 0.65. But in a game like this, I wouldn't mind taking that and maybe chucking it into your best bet of the weekend and increasing a double. But I do think Ulster get up here. And considering that it's likely to be lower points in this and likely to be, the numbers say closer, I'm not strong on the result. I just feel Ulster's right. It did feel a bit low, but, I've been swayed now looking at the stats. I'm saying stick Ulster on the board onto whatever your favorite team is. I like it. I think they get up. They win the game. And it could be dirty by 1 point or 2 points. Yeah. Ulster, yeah. It does feel low enough, but the stats tell us differently. I'll just say stick it in a multiple with your best bet. Ulster for me. Connacht don't win this game.
Read in agreement with you there. Stefan's making the point that Connacht are a bit of a worrying side on the road. David Furlong's joined us. He's going unders Ulster and unders Leinster. Faridas is giving me some background there on his Leinster bet on the spread, not the cap there. Okay, right. Let's have a look. The weather doesn't look too bad. Oh no, there is some rain about for this match potentially. As
told you, it rains every day in Ireland.
Yeah, as you say, we may as well. It's a bit like I remember the 2011 World Cup in New Zealand. I always said rain is never more than an hour away in New Zealand. It could be blue sky, and the rain can move in. Let's get into the last game, Gav. We've got the Dragons plus 8.5 against the Lions. Points line here of 54.5. Dragons have been reasonable this season compared to past seasons, if I must be honest. But surely the Lions can put them away.
I was quite confident in the Sharks beating this handicap against the Dragons, and obviously we saw they were
nearly didn't
trouble.
Win the game. Yeah,
they nearly didn't win the game. Correct. I was chatting to one of my Irish friends this week, and he said to me, this Lions handicap is very high. It is very high. At -8, it's the highest the Lions have ever been overseas. I don't think they've ever had a handicap this high before. It's almost like I always use that Terry Payne example of sitting in the studio, and he goes, "Sorry, did you say I can get even money on New Zealand?" So this is one of these, I can get, 5-2, 28-10 at home against the Lions in Europe. It seems obvious. It seems too big. But this Lions team is firing. The only thing that will stop this minus, in my opinion, is atrocious weather. Absolutely atrocious weather is the only thing that's going to stop the Lions winning by more than 8 points here. I'm a minus. This is again my biggest bet this weekend. Lions -8.5. I'm not buying anything about anything else than that result. I don't know what to do with the points. And the past history of head-to-heads here won't count either. I think the only thing that you could do or understand if you're a plus punter here is if you really understand the strength of this Dragons team and you understand the strength of the Lions team. But I'm going to tell you from what I've seen, this Lions team will destroy this Dragons team, not like the Sharks did. The Sharks have been poor after that Currie Cup win. I expected them to go over and play far better. That was a very disappointing result against this Dragons team. In fact, the Dragons beat Scarlets, I said earlier, I remember seeing. I'm a Lions punter. I'll be very surprised if this game's close. I really will. There is a little bit of bias in that, but I probably watch more Lions games than I do any other games, and I still don't know the players. I know some of them, but I don't know all of them. I just like them. Yeah, they're looking really good. In fact, I'm going to tell you this. Somebody asked me this morning, have I backed them to win the tournament? I said, no, I haven't backed them to win the tournament. I said, they'll be playing Champions League rugby next year, Champions Cup rugby. They'll finish in the top 8. And then I had a look at the price and I saw, 2 years ago, when the tournament started, Leinster were 5-10. I think they were 6-10 last year. Now you can back 7-10 at 7.76, 1.76 for the decimal punters, just under 8-10, Leinster to win the tournament. So, we never saw odds on in Super Rugby ever. 34-1, 33, 35-1 Lions. I've got some interest. I'll stick a lonely 300 on that to win myself 10 grand to take my wife away on holiday. Whatever 10 grand can buy me. But yeah, I'm willing to stick 300 rand on the Lions to win this tournament. Of course, remember, if they you get a final in Joburg, they can beat anybody. As we saw with the Crusaders, it got very close. If it wasn't for that red card, I was at that game. Anybody can, any team can win the tournament, honestly. If they get home, especially the South African teams, they can win. Of course they can win.
Yeah. I mean, the last 2 seasons, Gavin, I've been watching the betting. Leinster have not moved from odds on the entire tournament.
Yeah.
And then
who takes that?
They failed to win both of them. So it does create opportunities elsewhere without a doubt. The fact that Leinster, at the same time, if I'm a bookmaker, I do understand where they're coming from. I wouldn't be wanting to dangle any big price because Leinster are going to be there in the last 4. So, you can bet, but other teams can come in and they've stumbled. They're always involved in the in the Champions Cup and that, so they might feel the weaker side in the semi. So, I certainly wouldn't be backing Leinster now. Brent,
I want to give you an example of the 7-10 this early on. I'm going to tell you that you might remember 2003 was the shortest price Lance Armstrong ever was. He was 5-10. But most of the time he was 6, 7-10. And I'm thinking to myself, I would back Lance Armstrong with a blindfold and someone else's money as well as my money at 7-10 before I back Leinster to win this tournament at 7-10. It's just too short.
I'll tell you that, and I love my Tour de France. I'll be much more nervous with my 7-10 on Armstrong, not because of ability, but because Leinster's going to finish the match. You don't know in the tournament. You don't know that about Armstrong. Well, in the day. But you talk about cycling at the moment. Okay, just quick digression. there's the final sort of big race of the year taking place in Italy on Sunday. And Pogacar, who's also now won the World Championships, he's 1-3. 1-3 in a race with 170 guys. Isn't it amazing? But
it's crazy.
At the same time,
yeah, Tiger Woods went.
At the same time,
Tiger Woods. Yeah. Sorry, carry on.
No, I was going to say it's hard to see him get beat. All things being equal, he's got to, he is that strong. But I mean, cycling is this funny thing. You can get punches, you can have accidents. It's 1 to 3 years. It's a hell of a short price.
No, Tiger Woods started tournaments at 9 to 10, and I'll tell you, the ones where he was 9 to 10 or even money, he didn't win. He won the other ones.
Don't make me tell the Tiger Woods Betfair story, Gav. Please don't make me tell that. We've already got that on video, eh?
Yes, I know.
Okay, let's move on. We'll talk best bets, and then I just want to talk a little bit more on team selection and stuff. Yeah, best bet, Gav, of the games that we've had a look at here.
No, Lions. They're playing for me the worst team in the tournament that isn't bottom of the log. In fact, Benetton may become the worst team in the tournament. But right now, and Edinburgh in the wrong place on the log, second to last. So the Edinburgh game I like, but Lions for me are best bet of the weekend. Lions.
Right. Stefan coming in and saying, reminding me from last week, wasn't I meant to do this week's show on the old exercise bike? I'm going to have to do one on the exercise bike, no doubt about it.
I've also got an exercise bike.
Yeah, we can both do it. The only thing is, I don't know how noisy it will be, but I actually went to gym. I must admit, I just walked on the treadmill tonight, but I did walk on a 12% gradient and pictured myself cycling up some of those Tour de France climbs. At least I did something. But yeah, I do owe you guys a bicycle. Let's have a look at Johan's weekly treble. Benetton Sharks over 48.5. I like that one. Leinster Munster under 49.5. Really like that one. Edinburgh minus 2.5, and he's getting that at World Sports Betting at 11 to 2. Sheen is going. Lions is his best bet at minus 8.5. He's singing from the Oracle hymn sheet. Fareed, Bull's best bet in the URC. And let's have a look here. Have to be Rain Man, says Chris, to keep up with all these caps, let alone bet them right. Unders in the Leinster Munster game. Yeah, I think this could be an unders weekend. I'm just getting that feeling. My best bet will go out in the newsletter. There is a link down below. Been on a pretty decent run in the newsletter. Some weeks I've hit the ACCA, some weeks I've hit the sort of main bet. Struggling to put both together, but as long as we show a profit, I guess everyone's happy and we move on. But Gav, let's talk a little bit now about a topic we have discussed before, but I tell you what got me thinking about this, and I just want to bring the banner up here. Taking forever to come up. But we did have a few comments like under the show and that about, obviously you're well known in terms of your strategy for not knowing players' names and that sort of stuff. And as I said, I actually don't know. I know the key players, if I can put it that way. But I honestly, you show me, like I said, you show me that Glasgow side. I probably know 7, 8 of the guys. There's a few, So, but where I wanted to come in with this was, I think team, and I'm interested in your views on this. I think it's one thing not to know the players. So you don't necessarily have to have the players, particularly once the market is settled. You don't necessarily have to know. But I think team selection is so important these days because, if in the old days when you and I started betting, they really, teams didn't have 2 entire squads to choose from. You could pretty much bank most weeks that you'd get somewhere close to a full strength side. There might be a key player, for argument's sake, Flower for one of the teams or something. He might be out. That might make a difference. But I don't think you have to worry about it that much. These days you get a lot more volatility in terms of team selections. And the game that sort of brought it home to me last week was Ulster against the Bulls. When we did the show, the handicap was 13.5. And I also didn't think of the box coming back. And we were talking on that cap there. And then what happened was there was a guy actually did make a comment on Twitter. He actually, for whatever reason, he deleted his comment. Well, I couldn't find it afterwards because I wanted to go back to him and say, you were spot on. And he said, the Bulls are going to name their box and this handicap's going to go ballooning out. And it is what happened. So I wanted to say to you that I hear you on the players, and I'm not where you are on the players, but I agree with you. But I think we have to pay attention to team selection, because let's just say you didn't know any players' names, and you knew that the Bulls were potentially bringing back 5 bucks. That's obviously going to have a bearing. You know what I mean? If you know that, then you must rather hold back and wait for team news. What are your thoughts on that? Because in the old days, in our day, I'd say the old days, in our young punting days, we didn't have all of that stuff to worry about. But I think it is a fact. I think you've got to be, at the very least, aware of it, that you go, okay, I'm not taking Ulster now because if the Bulls name a strong side, I can get plus 19.5 Ulster instead of plus 13.5. What are your thoughts?
Well, the first thing I was going to say is that's not common for us as South Africans and Super Rugby for that matter. We never had, we knew a dead rubber. Everybody knew a dead rubber, and those were the games where they could blood a few new players, or somebody coming back from injury would get a bit of a half a run or whatever it is. But
so just
this
read that
was
comment. Steve reckons if we do exercise bikes, it'll sound like a porn show with all the heavy breathing.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, Gav, I had to interrupt you for that one.
No, Steve's probably right. In fact, I'd like to say he is right. It would sound like that. So I think that this behavior of half teams or quarter teams or play around teams or whatever you want to call them is squad management, and the English and the Irish, in fact, the European teams have been doing it for years. So this is not normal for us. And I remember having bets on European rugby in the past and just losing and turning it up and saying, well, I can't read this because the way I punt doesn't work when teams are changed that much all the time. And if I don't know the players, I'm going to lose money because of that fact. We as South African teams have not behaved the same way as the rest of the European teams in this competition, and we haven't behaved the same way the French teams do in their competition. So it may still be a bit of time before South Africa really does operate a two-squad system. Team news is imperative, of course. Yeah, well, I didn't take the other thing that's important here to answer this question is I don't take the bet before the team news. So yes, I did lose on the Ulster bet, even on my after the team news punt, because
you've always said you're not a Monday or you're not an early week punter. No, that's fair enough. I think you've always said
so. It doesn't affect me as much as it affects other punters. The likes of Hendrik, who's well known for taking bets earlier in the week. This would be far more important to him. But where I'm coming from here is I'm saying that there's enough clever rugby handicapper people out there to understand what it means to a team when this player's out or that player's out, and they'll bring it in line. And I'm looking at it from a number perspective. As you saw, I adjusted the way I thought about the Ulster minus based on the statistics. I do look at stats. Stats are important in rugby, but I don't know or remember who played in those games. But I'll tell you this, excuse me. This is tantamount to, I don't like how they're doing it. I don't like the fact that teams are being announced late in the week. I think teams should be announced early. This is tantamount to insider trading. I've been involved in finance for many, many years, and people that know that something's going to happen have an edge over the market. And I don't agree with that. I think what should be happening here is the teams, rugby, soccer for that matter, anybody, should be announcing a provisional team on a Monday morning based on fitness and their intentions to play specific players. And then prices should come out. And they could allow for one or two changes and even be fined if they make more than that. Something like that sort of thing. Because I can tell you, horse racing, they have to declare, and I know there's still dodgy stuff going on, but they've still got to declare if a horse is well or not well. They've got to you can't. I don't like that teams are waiting until late on a Thursday to name half a team or a stronger team than what they did last week. And some people have knowledge of that. I don't think it's right because it's time. In my time in this industry, the ones that are really ahead, that win all the time, they have time. I'm telling you now, I'm warning the bookmakers out there that when Gavin Cohen, Oracle, becomes retired, you better watch out because I'm going to have time. I don't have time at the moment. I don't have time to look at weathers and do team sheets. But what was that guy's name? Stein, the one with the helmet. He rated the players in their performance, which gave him a team score of which team was named. So he could say, like,
he didn't do it himself. I hear what you're saying. So what he did was he got it from a website that used to release it, and I mean he still obviously had the algorithm and that. But I agree with you 100%. Someone actually compiled all those stats and put it in, and then it used to, and when they stopped releasing those stats, he actually stopped his system because he didn't have anything to pull from. But I agree with you 100%. The betting stig. I mean, he was I don't know what he's doing now. I must actually give him. I've got his contact details. I must actually see how's it going. Scene reckons they're going to close your account. I just realized I was talking about the wrong bloody lens the game there. So sorry about that. That's why I was so confused on the 29.5. But yeah, it's interesting one. Chris just says international rugby, it works a bit better. Club rugby, it's a huge disadvantage, but understandable given the work required, which of course comes to time again. So I think you're spot on. I think time is so important, Gav.
Huge. I mean, I remember Owen at Hollywood calling me and saying, "This like beating us. What's he doing?" And every time I came back, I said to mine, "It's time. This like got time. He's found something. He's got time. He's doing more." I said it from when I started in this industry in 1999. People said to me, "Everyone loses." I said, "No ways. They don't all lose. The ones that win, they're doing more work. So yes, if you've got time to honestly look at what have we got? 16 teams times 50 players. That's 800 players. If you know the livelihoods of 800 players, and remember, I mean, we all laughed at Brendan. I used to know the wife's name and what school the kids went to. I mean, I don't believe Brendan was working, or he was being paid to sit in an office and just study rugby, because that takes a hell of a lot of time. So, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Power Query, sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm very good with my Excel, and I will be doing that in retirement. I just don't have time to do it now. Don't have time. And I'm not putting that much money.
I'm going to come back to this question from Sir Des because I think it's a good one. But I want to ask you a question. Were you, and I know I'm not talking about in terms of size of punts, because I think like me, you're probably a smaller punter now than you were 10 years ago for various reasons like family commitments. But were you a more successful punter 10 years ago than you are now? In other words, relatively speaking, did you make more 10 years ago?
I've done okay. I had 2010 was a losing year for me. It was my last losing year up until COVID. 2020, I lost money. This year, I'm definitely down. I've had some decent wins, but I'm down this year. Last year I think I was break even. To answer his question, I used to keep records. I don't anymore because I don't bet on every single game. And I definitely don't bet as much as I used to. I will tell you this, and a lot of people that know me, I made a decision to send my older son to a relatively expensive school, and I started off at minus 5,000 Rand a month that year. I think it was 2017. So I had to make 60,000 Rand just to pay the bills. In other words, to break even. And I managed to make 65 that year, so it was reasonably decent. But, I eventually realized I was punting for the wrong reason. I've got back to now punting for pleasure, having a bet because I like a game, and it's different. So, yes, it's difficult to say that in my 25 years. I can tell you now that I lost every year from 1999 to 2010. Every year, lost. Learning, school fees, whatever you want to call it. My first winning year was a 2011 World Cup. I got closed by Bet365, got closed by Stan James, got closed by Paddy Power, got closed by all those European companies, which I had an account with at the time. From 99 to 2009, for 11 years, I lost money. Not a lot, but lost every year. Didn't even have a single winning year. And 2020 was my first losing year since 2010. I had some decent years. 2014 was very good. I remember that being very, very good. 2017 was good. That's the one I mentioned earlier. 2016 was okay. 2018 was all right. But honestly, since 2020, I've been small. 2021 until this year, I'm a much smaller punter. I don't know. I've had 20 grand on games, and today I could have 200 rand on a game, and I'm happy. So, yeah. I've paid for what I needed to pay for, and it's done.
Well, there's another question I want to get to now as well, but let me answer the question from me first of all. I've made money. So what I do is I used to track. There was a time when I used to track every bet in that, and with the admin was just too much. What I do is, and I would like to say I do it every month, but I don't even do that. But I've got a WhatsApp with myself. Every time I make a deposit, I note the deposit. Every time I make a withdrawal, I note the deposit. I've got what's called the deposit factor. I recon every 2 or 3 months, so I can see my overall position. Last year, I've gone probably now 14 out of 15 years showing a profit, and by no means sometimes it's a minute profit that I've shown. I did have one bad year. It was around about, I can't remember the year, 2011, 12, somewhere around there. I had a good year last year. This year, I was on course for a shocker of a year. The first 6 months, it's funny how betting goes when you're under pressure in other parts of your life. Like, let's just say you're under a bit of financial pressure. I hear what you're saying on that 5,000. I've kind of had that situation as well, where you almost have to win. There's other times if things aren't going well for you for whatever reason, or you're going through a bit of a rough ride in life, geez, it's hard to win money punting. I don't know what it is. It's like a mindset thing. But when you're like relaxed and everything's going well, you've got a time. So yes, I've done it. And as I say, sometimes I've recently edged in front for the year again. I thought this was going to be a losing year. It might still be a losing year. I'm hoping not. But I've literally been on a very good run the last 3 months, and I've edged back in front. But I was almost prepared to ride this year also. That's how I keep my record of my bets. I don't keep any detail, but you can tell me at any given time. I can tell you how much I'm up or down for the year based on reconning my accounts. So that's my one. But I want to...
I just want to say one more thing on that topic. Sorry. So I've actually built a very nice... I had built. I still have it. I just don't use it at the moment. Which I knew exactly my position with each bookmaker. When at one point I had 150,000 rand in different accounts all over the place. I had a big float, so if I wanted to put 10 or 15 grand in a game, I could do that. Today, I don't have that 150 grand. I don't have any float. It's whatever's in my bank account at that moment. But I did have a proper thing, and what I would do actually is when I was up nicely with 1 or 2 bookmakers, I actually left them alone. So this document actually helped me to spread my money around and not get into too much trouble and get limited. Although I was limited with most places, I always stand by what I said before, is if you do want to get 10 grand on a game, you can honestly take 2,500 rand bets and take 10 1,000 rand bets. You don't have to have 10 grand on it at one time. Or you can get into a car and drive around and take, a whole lot of cash bets at different shops. If you really want to get, you want to get 500,000 rand on a game in South Africa, you can absolutely do that by driving around and taking your bets. It's not, it's difficult, but it's achievable. Let's put it that way. It's how much you want to get on. But yeah, I'm a much smaller punter today, and I must be honest, going into putting a lot more money into investments at the moment, planning for retirement, as we've discussed before on this show. I'm hoping to get done by, between 2.5 and 3 years from now. And I'll probably, as much as I'm telling bookmakers to be scared, it's because they just won't beat me. I won't be taking big bets again. I'm done with big bets. I would rather find the bet of the week. Often I've said, if you're going to have one bet this week, take this. And I have followed my own advice and found that I've done better. Is rugby profitable sport in the long run? Of course it is. You don't have to get 6 out of 10. No, you're looking at out of 10. You need to look at out of 100. You need to have 53 or more. I think it's 52.5. But, the difference between getting 54 out of 100 right compared to 53 is actually quite big. And 55 versus 54 is also big. It's only one number, but it's actually 2.3%, and it goes up as well. So, yes, absolutely. When I was really recording it and picking my games, I was sitting in the high 50s, and I've always said if you can get between 56 and 60%, you're making money. There's no doubt you're making money. It doesn't matter what your stake is, you're making money. And if you get over 60%, I had a couple of years over 60%, but generally between 55 and 58 was normal for me. So that's getting 55 right and 45 wrong. And that's selecting games. That's not backing every single game. If you back every single game, like now we're talking about 8 games, more than likely I'll probably have 3 bets. And when looking at them, it'll be the Lions and Edinburgh and the Bulls. Those are the 3 teams I've targeted here. I may have some other ones, but if you're a 100 Rand punter and you have 10 Rand on another game, it's not really a bet, so you can't really count it. But you count your 100 Rand bets, or you count your 500 Rand bets, or you count your 5,000 Rand bets, depending on how big you are. But absolutely, if you're not achieving 53 out of 100 on games that you've selected as your best bets, you shouldn't be punting on rugby.
Okay, I'm pleased you said the best bets part there, because I agree. So rugby for me, so I'll tell you what happened to me, so Des, I used to bet on anything that moved. I was a soccer punter, I was a golf punter and everything. I used to go to the casinos. I gave up casinos because when I say I never won, sometimes you'd win, but I knew that overall I was losing on casinos. I never cracked a record, but it wasn't hard to tell. I would be sometimes pretty depressed waking up. So I gave up casinos. I gave up everything. And from sports betting, I eventually evolved from a guy who bet on anything to a guy who bets 90 to 95% rugby. And the reason I do that is I find rugby is one of the few sports, and I'm not saying there aren't others there and guys, but because I love the game and that, it is one of the few sports I've been able to gain a long-term edge over the bookmakers. I'll go through bad runs, but ultimately, because of things like points line moves and weather and understanding how teams play and conditions, a soccer game, it doesn't really matter what, 2 teams play each other in England. It doesn't matter what pitch they're playing on. And it's just, you could have defensive teams and attacking teams. The odds hardly move when the bookies come out on the English Premier League, for example. Whereas rugby, you get the early moves. And I agree with one of the comments here was saying it's not easy to get the early prices because you get restricted in that. And that's fair enough. I mean, at the moment, there's maybe 1 or 2 bookies that come out early, but, I can't necessarily get the big bets on with them. And then you've got like Boyle's Gav, who take the view on the total points. You only come out like an hour and a half before the game or so. Now, in a sense, I prefer that because then I can get a solid bet on. I'm not beating the market, but I still fancy my chances in the long term of beating the bookmaker. So I think it's probably, we won't go on for too long. I think this warrants probably another show sometime. But for me, if you had to honestly say, Brent, you've got to make money over the next year, which sport are you betting? It's rugby.
Right.
Doubt.
Absolutely.
I might get a 40-1 golfer or something, but rugby is a sport that you can. It all comes down to what Gavin said earlier about time. And let's face it, I mean, get guys who, you get a guy like the conductor who knows all the teams, this and that. I mean, that's where he gets his edge at the end of the day. You've got to get an edge over the bookmakers, and rugby is one of the few sports where you can get an edge. Let's quickly run through some of the comments because we and I have been talking so much. There's quite a bit of chat here. I probably will miss quite a few. Steve just says he's on fire tonight. Sounds like a math lit analysis, 53 out of 100.
Steve, if you want to get more technical, you can go out of 1,000, and I think it's 532 that you have to get out of 1,000. So yeah, 10,000 would be 5,319 or something. I don't know.
That's it.
It's discipline, correct? Money management and discipline, 100%.
And I'm the first to say I'm a lot more disciplined than I was when I was younger. But if I'm having a bad weekend, Gav, sometimes or whatever, good, I'll do some stupid things still sometimes. Make no mistake. And I know you're the same. And then sometimes you say, look, I'm taking 3 weeks break because you've got to change that mindset. And it is about discipline. And what scares me a little bit about betting, Gav, is the number of, and I've got nothing against it. I mean, my son and I have a few punts and that sort of stuff, but the number of people, the number of youngsters that come out and bet, but not only on sport and that, but on flipping slot machines and stuff like that. Nothing against it. You know what? You live in it, you pay your school fees. I agree. Dan saying rugby is more punter friendly. I agree with that. I think if you gave bookmakers a choice and said, you can kick one sport out to touch, they'd probably take rugby and say, we're not pricing, or we're not going to price up on points. And you look at guys like Hollywood and that as well. I mean, they obviously also cater. They've got lots of shops. They've got if you look at their rugby markets, they're very solid on the handicap. You can always, they might open 17 to 20, but you can get a decent, they'll be 9 to 10. on the handicap. But I mean, points, I think they also come out either last minute or they put it somewhere where I can't even find it, because they know that that's where they're vulnerable. And at the end of the day, they'll rather bet into markets where they've got that slight edge over, or they'll feel they've got that slight edge over the punter.
Yeah.
But anyway, you have to love the sport to put in the work required. Top spot on for Reed, and that's also one of the reasons, obviously, why I do rugby. But and if you said to me, Brent, you're gonna, and Gav, I'm sure you'll agree with this as well. If someone said to me, look, Brent, you've got to make money on soccer. You've got to start studying up on soccer. I'm not mad about soccer, but I can handle that. I'll do some work on it. I'm not picking the English Premier League. I'm picking the PSL, because
or the 7th division in Albania.
Exactly, something like that. You don't pick, because the English Premier League, there's just too much information. Everybody's got it.
You won't be.
But even the PSL, if you're passionate about something like the PSL, I reckon you could make money on it. And also following things like trends and teams and stuff like that, I reckon you could do pretty well.
Correct. It's just down to time. It's down to how much time you've got to spend. You're not going to make money on every league. I did the exercise years ago on Super Rugby. I had a bet on every single game. I think I got 46% or something. But when I looked at the games that I really liked, got my 55 to 58. You can't bet on every single game. You just can't. You can't bet on every single sport either. I mean, I remember guys that were winning at rugby were giving it away back in golf and cricket and other things. And you just think to yourself, you look at Dyke's account and you go, if this just stuck to rugby, or if he just stuck to golf, we just stuck to cricket, whatever it was, everyone's got their sport. They understand better. They put more time into it. They watch more games. I mean, I did okay on this SA20 earlier this year. I went to a couple of games as well. I'm going to tell you, I'm looking forward to that cricket tournament. Am I a cricket punter? Of course, I've had cricket bets. I don't bet on cricket often. But this tournament, I read well last year. I watched a couple of games. I selected the games I wanted to have a bet on. Didn't bet on every game, and I made money. And I'm going to do the same thing. Watch a couple of games. The World Cup, I did okay, that Cricket World Cup. And, these tournaments that come up once a year, once every couple of years, those are the opportunities for punters with time, because bookmakers don't spend a lot of time on them, and they don't have enough information because the last time the tournament was a while ago. RPL, same story. If you understand your RPL, golf's a great one. If you can pick a few tournaments a year because you understand the weather and the conditions of what kind of grass it is and how fast the wind is blowing and all of that, and how well players are, with form are coming into tournaments, you can do well at golf. But are you going to win every week? No, you're not, because every single golf tournament is different. So you've got to, don't bet on everything you watch, but watch the stuff you bet on.
Yeah, but I mean, golf's a great example as well. I read a lot of golf previews and I enjoy golf. And over the years, I've kind of done okay. I'm probably not. Every now and again, I've got.
I'm a loser on golf. I'm absolutely a loser on golf.
I think I might be okay on golf, although lately I haven't been terribly off. But when you read some of these guys, like, I don't know, is it Ben Coley of Sporting Life, and you've got the Betfair guys, Steve Rawlings. These guys can tell you that the guy puts well on a certain type of grass.
Yes,
in the
time, Brent. I mean, time.
You've got to. That's it. And time. And these days, I guess, just ability to filter that data. But there's a few comments I want to go through. I know I said I'd end the show, but we are having a good chat here. First of all, I had a good laugh at this one. The Icelandic third tier is where it's at. You're 100%, Darren. But this is an interesting one because Stefan come in and he said PSL under 2.5 goals will come in 7 out of 10 games. I agree with you, Stefan, but the problem is so do the bookies. I mean, Gab, when you price up PSL, if you look at it, if you go to the UK, you normally normally over 2.5 goals is sort of 8 to 10. I mean, you get your exceptions and you might get even money on under 2.5, In the PSL, it's totally different. You can sometimes get flipping. I've seen 4, 5 to 10 on over 2.5 goals in the PSL because it is a low scoring tournament. So, I've almost looked at it and go, well, I still don't know if you can make money going unders because you're just not getting the price.
For me, South Africa, I think I saw the stat. It's the best, out of the top 100 leagues in the world. It has the highest probability of a draw. So For me, you've got to pick the games that are more likely to draw. You can back Sundowns to draw every day of the week. They're not drawing. They're drawing 1 or 2 games a year, whereas some of these other teams are just draw specialists. And that is a stat to be worried about from someone backing a team to win. The Serie B and Serie C in Italy are up there with the PSL, but a lot of that is mafia stuff. That's not about hitting barn doors. That's about deliberately missing barn doors. But yeah, South Africa, the money's in the drawers if you can find them and pick them right. I did a bit of homework on that for a while. In fact, I invested with a mate of mine, and we actually backed every draw. We came out on top. We actually made a decent profit we did the 22-23 year. But it was quite a lot of work, and we didn't make massive amount of money for the time that we spent. But if we'd stuck to specific teams, we would have done a lot better. So yeah, you've just got to find your angle. Every single game, every single sport, I'm always going to look at something to find a way of making money from it. But honestly, that's for retirement at the moment. I just enjoy my rugby, cricket when it's on, and just had the odd golf bet, but I expect to lose in golf. But I'm also backing big price players. So one day when I get 100-1 shot on 81, it would be nice to win. But I've actually got a mate that loves his golf, and he bets with me, and I just lay him bets because I know how hard it is to win at golf. So I'm actually making money on golf, laying bets to mates rather than punting golf.
Yeah, and Steve, for example, and Steve mentions heads up. So in other words, you've got two players up against each other. That's almost like a rugby handicap bet.
Absolutely.
And I agree, Steve. Yeah. If you know your golf there, that's the type of thing that you can focus on. But let's call it quits there.
I remember Steve telling me, I haven't spoken to Steve recently, but I remember him telling me a story last year, I think. He had found 7 golfers to win in a 3-ball. So he'd picked a 7-leg multiple and won quite a lot of money for very little money. So yeah, no, Steve, if he can pull those off every now and then he's very good at his golf. I remember looking at that bet. I think you showed it to me, Steve. I was very impressed. So yeah, he's right. If you can find those golfers in multiple.
Yeah, and Steve will know from the horse racing, another punter, Mark Borragero. You'll know him as well. I think he was on your racing group. Now he used to go on I think it was Sporting Bet. Well, they've all got it, but he used to do it on Sporting Bet. He used to pick they used to have groups of 5 for the tournament, like these 5, and then betting. So he'd have 5 favorites together, 5, and he would pick like 5 or 6 and put them together. And he won. I can't remember, but he won big ones on a multiple there. And so plenty of ways to skin a cat, and lots of sports to bet on. For golf, I used to bet on golf a lot. Nowadays, I'm really just a majors player, and we'll let Fareed have the final word. He knows his rugby, but learns the spread betting game. Yeah, spread betting, Gav. I mean, I've got money. I've still got money offshore that I use to fund a spread betting account. I actually opened a bank account in the Isle of Man to fund a spread betting account. It was lovely. I've made money over spreads over the years, but I can tell you the stress of spread betting. Fixed odds has got nothing on it, especially when you're playing in pounds and earning in rands. Let me tell you, it was pretty stressful. But guys, let's call it quits. It's been a great show. Lovely having this chat at the end as well. I think what I'll probably do is I'll get my daughter to do it because I've got no half to her, but actually carve out the end of the show. We'll have a standalone show on this that people, they can stay, because the rest of my show, of course, on the rugby betting is only valid for 2 days. But this conversation, we'll put it up on the website because it could be something guys might enjoy watching over a period of time. Thanks, everyone, in the live show. So, Des, I'm actually going to give you the final word on the. Oh, sorry, I've clicked. There was another comment coming through. Spread betting is a dangerous game. You can
a roller coaster of hell.
You could say that.
Tennis match is worse.
Yeah, yes. Stefan saying Egyptian underwater belly dancing last month. Yeah, you can get a price on that. And of course, find the razor quickly, Gav. Guys, thanks very much. It's been a long one. My wife thankfully bought me a cup of tea while we were talking. But we'll see you next week for the Handicap Rugby Chat that matters.